When wiring a screened-in deck, several factors must be considered to ensure safety and compliance with electrical codes. Because it can get wet when it rains, everything, including receptacles, lights, and fans, must be ground fault interrupter (GFI) protected. GFI are required in wet or damp locations to provide protection against electrical shock. For wiring type, underground feeder UF cable must be used. UF cable is specifically designed for outdoor use and is resistant to moisture and sunlight. A screened-in deck is considered a wet location area. This means that all electrical components must be protected against rain and moisture. It's important to consider other factors as well. Firstly, all wiring should be run through conduit or cable trays to provide physical protection and prevent damage from moisture or pests. Secondly, all electrical boxes should be weatherproof to prevent water from entering and causing shorts or corrosion. Thirdly, outlets should be installed at least 12 inches above the floor to minimize the risk of water damage. Fourthly, fans and lights should be rated for outdoor use, ensuring they are designed to withstand moisture and temperature changes. Fifthly, the ceiling should be properly insulated and ventilated to prevent moisture buildup, which can lead to mold and electrical problems. It is also important to consider the following additional notes. If the deck is attached to the house, it may be possible to run the wiring from the house through the existing wall. However, this should only be done by a qualified electrician who can ensure that the wiring is properly protected and meets all code requirements. It is crucial to have a licensed electrician inspect and approve the installation to ensure that it is up to code and safe to use. Electricians are trained to identify potential hazards and ensure that the wiring is installed correctly. Considering the National Electrical Code, NIC, the following points are particularly relevant. Article 210.8 addresses ground fault circuit interrupter (GFCI) protection for personnel. It requires GFCI protection for 125 volt through 250 volt receptacles supplied by single-phase circuits rated 15 amps and 20 amps installed in wet locations. Since a screened-in deck is considered a wet location, all receptacles installed there must be GFCI protected. Article 314.15 covers the requirements for boxes, conduit bodies, and fittings in damp or wet locations. It states that in damp or wet locations, boxes, conduit bodies, and fittings shall be placed or equipped so as to prevent moisture from entering or accumulating within the box, conduit body, or fitting. This can be achieved by using weatherproof boxes, conduit bodies, and fittings, as well as ensuring that all connections are properly sealed. Article 340 covers underground feeder and branch circuit cable, type UF. It specifies the requirements for the use and installation of UF cable, including its suitability for direct burial in the earth and its resistance to moisture and corrosion. When using UF cable for wiring a screened-in deck, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions and ensure that the cable is properly protected from physical damage. Article 406.9 addresses receptacles in damp or wet locations. It requires that receptacles installed in wet locations be equipped with a weatherproof enclosure when the receptacle is not in use. This can be achieved by using a bubble cover or other similar device that protects the receptacle from moisture. Article 410 covers lighting fixtures, lamp holders, and lamps. It specifies the requirements for the installation of lighting fixtures in various locations, including wet locations. When installing lighting fixtures on a screened-in deck, it is important to use fixtures that are rated for outdoor use and are protected from moisture. The specific requirements for wiring methods in wet locations are also detailed in Chapter 3 of the NEC. These requirements cover the types of wiring methods that are permitted in wet locations, as well as the installation requirements for each method. In addition to the NEC, local building codes may also have specific requirements for wiring screened-in decks. It is important to check with the local building department to ensure that the installation meets all applicable codes. When running wiring through conduit, it is important to use the correct type of conduit for the location. For example, PVC conduit is suitable for direct burial in the earth, while EMT conduit is not. The size of the conduit must also be appropriate for the number and size of the wires being run through it. The ampacity of the wires must be sufficient for the load they will be carrying. The ampacity of a wire is the maximum amount of current that it can safely carry without overheating. The NEC provides tables that list the ampacity of various types of wires based on their size and insulation type. When selecting wires for wiring a screened-in deck, it is important to choose wires that are rated for wet locations and have sufficient ampacity for the load they will be carrying. The overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, must be sized appropriately for the wires they are protecting. The overcurrent protection device should trip or blow before the wires can overheat and cause a fire. The NEC provides guidelines for sizing overcurrent protection devices based on the ampacity of the wires they are protecting. When installing electrical boxes, it is important to choose boxes that are rated for wet locations and are large enough to accommodate all of the wires and connections. The boxes should be securely mounted to the structure of the deck and should be properly sealed to prevent water from entering. When making wire connections, it is important to use connectors that are rated for wet locations and are properly installed. The connectors should be tight and secure to prevent loose connections, which can cause overheating and electrical problems. When installing receptacles, it is important to choose receptacles that are rated for wet locations and are equipped with a weatherproof cover. The receptacle should be installed at least 12 inches above the floor to minimize the risk of water damage. When installing lighting fixtures, it is important to choose fixtures that are rated for outdoor use and are protected from moisture. The fixtures should be securely mounted to the structure of the deck and should be properly wired. When installing fans, it is important to choose fans that are rated for outdoor use and are protected from moisture. The fans should be securely mounted to the structure of the deck and should be properly wired. The ceiling should be properly insulated and ventilated to prevent moisture buildup, which can lead to mold and electrical problems. The insulation should be installed according to the manufacturer's instructions and should be properly sealed to prevent air leaks. The ventilation system should be designed to provide adequate airflow to prevent moisture from accumulating. The electrical installation should be inspected and approved by a licensed electrician to ensure that it is up to code and safe to use. The electrician will check the wiring, connections, boxes, receptacles, lighting fixtures, fans, and other electrical components to ensure that they are properly installed and are safe to operate. By following these guidelines and consulting with a qualified electrician, it is possible to safely and effectively wire a screened-in deck. Remember to always prioritize safety and consult with a professional when in doubt. Ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFIs, are essential safety devices that protect people from electrical shock. They work by monitoring the current flowing through a circuit and quickly interrupting the power if a ground fault is detected. A ground fault occurs when electricity flows through an unintended path, such as through a person's body. GFIs are designed to detect even small ground faults and trip the circuit within milliseconds, preventing serious injury or death. Underground feeder off cable is a type of electrical cable that is specifically designed for direct burial in the ground. It is constructed with a moisture-resistant jacket that protects the conductors from corrosion and water damage. UF cable is commonly used for wiring outdoor lighting, receptacles, and other electrical equipment. Conduit is a protective tube or channel that is used to enclose and protect electrical wiring. It is typically made of metal or plastic and is available in a variety of sizes and types. Conduit provides physical protection for the wiring and helps to prevent damage from moisture, pests, and other hazards. Weatherproof electrical boxes are designed to protect electrical connections from moisture and the elements. They are typically made of metal or plastic and are equipped with a gasketed cover that seals out water and dirt. Weatherproof boxes are essential for outdoor electrical installations to prevent corrosion and electrical problems. When planning the wiring for a screened-in deck, it is important to consider the location of the electrical components and the potential for exposure to moisture. Receptacles and lighting fixtures should be located in areas where they are protected from direct rain and snow. The wiring should be routed in a way that minimizes the risk of water damage. It is also important to consider the aesthetic appeal of the wiring installation. The wiring should be neatly and professionally installed and should not detract from the overall appearance of the deck. By taking these factors into consideration, it is possible to create a safe and functional electrical system for a screened-in deck that will provide years of reliable service. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician before starting any electrical work. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to have the proper knowledge and experience to do it safely. The cost of hiring a qualified electrician is typically well worth the peace of mind that comes with knowing that the work has been done correctly and safely.